everybody, my name is Andrea of MAKADREZ.com. Today I am sitting here with Desmonde Monroe. Desmonde Monroe, he is the founder of a community development company which does a whole lot of things that I can't say because it does a lot. I'm going to let him finish it off, but let us know more about you and what you do.
Okay, well, I'm the president and CEO of the Monroe Group LLC. We are a community development and disaster recovery company. Now, disaster recovery, a lot of people don't know that when this happens, whether it's earthquakes, floods, tornadoes, all men in the apocalypse, someone has to come in and fix them. And basically, the government releases funds through something called Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery. Those funds are administered through HUD and they go to the affected area. Once the municipality or the city-state receives those funds, they hire consultants such as myself to come in and sit with the administration to help, come up and execute the plan to rebuild the community, And so now, our main focus is to rebuild it better than what it was and more resilient, so that way it can withstand another disaster. And on the community development side, we partner with developers who are taking advantage of or using tax subsidies to build large developments, and those tax subsidies come with compliance regulations. And so we monitor the compliance and procurement. So that way, when procurement, oh, that's a whole other thing. It is the way.
What is a procurement, by the way?
The procurement is the way that a developer sources talent to engage with the development, right? So how they get their GCs, their plumbers, and all these other things is through the procurement process. But these tax subsidies come with something that are tied with the local law that helps better or stimulate the local economy and sometimes the local business community. So for ICAP, the Industrial Commercial Abatement Program, they have MWBE compliance. MWBE is Minority Women Business Enterprise. So
when you say minority women, it's a fund for women only, or just anybody that is of minority background? Anyone
that fits the MWBE classifications are considered with that. So you get your MWBE certification through either the city or state that you live in, and then they determine the percentage of the contract that is issued. So like in New York, we have 33% of all city and state, all city and ICAP projects. So
every state has one?
Every state has one. Yeah, actually, the MWBE program was actually started by Nixon. Most people don't even know that. Yes.
What?
Yes, Nixon started that. So, yeah.
That you would never guess, though.
Well, it's
with
really...
all the controversy that's around him and his whole run of presidency.
Yes, and then Reagan.
Interesting run of presidency.
Yeah, and then Reagan backed it again, and Reagan, he was all about the MWBE small businesses, and they made sure it was part of the law. So so each state has a requirement within their contracting and funds to go ahead and do that. So we work with the developers who are doing, these massive projects, and we make sure that not only the development is done on time, but that it has a good community impact, whether social or economic. So we do a lot of hiring to contractors that are MWBE. So if you're an MWBE painter or carpenter, I usually make sure that they get the bids.
Do you have to work because you are MWBE contractor?
Yes.
Do you have to work with other MWBE contractors when you do have these big projects?
Well, in New York...
Or you can work with anybody?
I tend to... Well, you can work with anybody, right?
Oh.
But the thing is, the 33% of that contract, let's say if the project is $100 million, 33% of that $100 million has to be spent on MWBE contractors. There's no way around it. Whatever you do with the other half, you can hire whoever you want. But within that spend, it has to go to there, right? Because that meets the city's objective. It's to spur economic development. Because most MWBEs, right, they still live within their communities. So when you're supporting those businesses, then you are supporting that local economy. Because people
that
really
makes
don't,
sense. That makes sense.
People really don't know. The United States government is the biggest buyer in the world, and New York City is right behind it. New York City, and I tell people, New York City, New York State, they procure for everything they don't make, and they don't make anything. So even down, if you're a supplier who has, you supply tools or you supply toilet paper, you can really find a contract to be like, well, you'll supply all the toilet paper to all of the Department of Corrections. Like there's ways in, and most people really don't know that. And that's kind of where I go out and I like teach other businesses. That's what I do on the side, just teach other businesses how to take advantage and get inside those funding portals. Because if you don't know how procurement runs, if you don't know that these funds are out there, then you're at a disadvantage. And it's there to help. I don't think it's not a handout, because we do disparity studies in New York City and New York State, and we actually do it throughout the country. And we see exactly what businesses are benefiting from these billions and billions of dollars that are being dumped into the community, either for infrastructure projects, for big capital projects like the airports and all that kind of stuff. And we want to make sure.
And what are those businesses?
What do you mean?
Like, what kind of businesses are those that are thriving in that market?
Well, a lot
working with the state.
A lot of, I would say, because construction is really big, so a lot of construction companies thrive within there. A lot of professional services. So if you're consulting and you do, let's say, if you're accounting and things like that, there's a way to get in and do that. Goods and services, even restaurants. If a restaurant is an MWBE certified like restaurant, people don't realize like a lot of these big events, like governor's balls and like all these kind of things, they're catered for, through private business owners. So if you get those contracts, it's very lucrative. Very lucrative, and you keep that on a rolling basis. Even vending machines, you know what I mean? They go into these buildings and they procure that way. So it's very interesting.
But how does one even do their research to even get their foot in the door with something like that?
Well, that's where I find it like sometimes difficult, right? So I come from the public and private background. So I work for the governor's office and I was a consultant for the mayor, but I also worked for really big construction firms and things like that before I started my own firm. So it was like part of my job to know these things, and I'm realizing that the everyday person has no idea that this stuff is out there. So what we started to do, and with my company, is we do MWBE procurement like expos. So people can come, like we're having one here at Brooklyn Commons on May 23rd from 6 to 9. So
which one though? Because Brooklyn Commons has 2 locations.
Brooklyn Commons on 7 Marcus Garvey Boulevard.
Okay, but the Bushwick location.
Huh?
The Bushwick location.
The Bushwick location.
Okay.
So what we do is I reach out to like a lot of the procurement officers who have this funding and who are looking for certain kind of contracts, and I have them come and I have the people come and meet them. So you have a one-on-one, you can talk to the actual buyer right then and there, and you can sell your services to the city and get contracts, or to even private entities, and set up that relationship so you can move forward. And how people know, it's a lot of marketing, and I just don't think people know what they're seeing when they're out there, because in New York City they have an initiative. Now this is great, right? So they have $20 billion in set-asides for MWBE.
$20 billion?
$20 billion with a B, set-asides for MWBE.
New York City, fund me, okay?
Right, so they have the set-asides, but then, right, so you have the $20 billion set-aside. So we're just gonna put this money aside just for, you guys. But then each city contract has a 33% spend. So not only do you get the $20 billion, all the other contracts are coming out also have to, also include you in your business. And if people don't understand that, they don't have the information, they don't go after it. But New York City really does a really good job marketing, because if you're in a subway, you see like MWBE, but a lot of people don't even know what that stands for. So but I see this.
I think it's just like a regular ad for like health or something like that.
But it's really like, I think if they just put like, come get your money, or come like get a contract. But it's just not that easy, right? So I don't want people to run it down to the mayor's office, knock on the door, ask, so where's my contract? You really have to market your business to, the city. You have to know how to market to government, and you have to know your value proposition. You have to, have your capability statements. You have to be there at those, those fairs. You have to have the outreach. And that's something,
So you have to do the work prior to applying. You can't just, I'm going to start a business today and do it tomorrow with the state. They won't work with you.
Right? Because they still want to buy quality products. And you still have.
No, I mean, like, say that you're starting a quality business.
Yes.
Like, I don't know, you're selling chairs.
That's fine.
You're selling chairs. It's a quality product that, okay, somebody's going to buy this. Could you start it today and start selling to the city tomorrow? Or do you have to have the work in at least like a year, few years in first?
Your company, right? So your MWBE has to be in existence for a year. So as of now,
Prior to applying?
prior to applying for the certification, you have to be in business for a year. Now, doesn't matter if you make $1, $2, $3, $4. It has to be on the books, registered, for a full year before you're allowed to then go ahead and apply. And then you can apply through SBS, Small Business Services. You can apply through, MTA, because the Department of Transportation has their own sort of certification process. So you can apply through those, but once you get there, once you get it, you get the certification, a lot of people get excited, like, where's my contract, right? It still doesn't work that way. You still have to market your business the way you would.
Have to do the work.
So, that's how businesses kind of get into that funnel. But, really work on, again, I always say value proposition. That's really important to understand. All right, this is what I have, and this is how I can market it to the city or the federal government, because they all have it. And there's other certifications.
Is that a separate contract that you have to work on to do that? For the federal government?
Yeah, for the federal government, let's say you get a contract with, Department of Homeland Security, you have other things. They have the MWBE or the 8A certifications through Small Business Association, and all these other kind of things. They help you get in the door with that. But they all have their own quota. So they all want to engage, small businesses and minority women-owned businesses. So there is a need for it, and they see it. And again, like I said, it started with Nixon, championed by Reagan. So we're just going to go ahead and move forward. But the great thing about New York is that we have something called discretionary spending, which most states and cities has. But discretionary spending in New York for MWBs was capped at $150,000. So the mayor, de Blasio, has just announced that he's petitioned the state to make it discretionary spending up to $1 million. Now, what that is that usually when you go for these contracts, you have to do competitive procurement, right? So like I said, so you put in your bid with everybody else, but when you are on like a preferred vendors list, and let's say you offer the best chairs in the world, right? And if I'm just a procurement agent, I'm like, I don't have time to go through all these bids. I have discretionary spending, meaning I can call you, say, I need your chairs. It's under the threshold, so it's they're not breaking any laws. Can you come in and get these chairs, and it can buy these chairs from you? And before they were capped at $150,000, but now they're capped at. Hopefully they will be capped at $1 million. So that could be a direct relationship where you're just like, okay, I just got $1 million contract and I had to fight everybody for it. So it's a way to help communities, and I think it's a way to build economic development in disadvantaged communities, because when things like disasters hit, they affect a lot of LMI communities, so that's low to moderate income individuals, right? So when I go into a community, right, so I'd say it's a disaster recovery program. Disaster recovery, nature has a lot of things. So a bomb hits, boom, right? When I go into rebuild, with that funding comes Section 3, meaning I have to not only build the building back, but I have to engage the community. So I have to look at the demographics of the community and say, all right, there's a certain amount of low to moderate income people in here. So while I'm also building a building, I also have to have a component of my company to do job training. So that way, once they go through like a certain job training, and I'm in construction, right? So we offer a lot of OSHA training and things like that. Once we do that, and if I'm on the developer end, I then take that segment of residents that have passed the training requirements to have the necessary skills and capabilities, I then move them into the hiring pool for all of my contractors to pick from.
Nice.
So any new hires that they
come in, they get a job immediately.
Get a job. So, and I think what
Monroe Group people look into it.
I think what happens is that you see there's a lot of moving parts, right? And I tell developers and construction people that all the time. You're still putting a nail in the wall. The difference is who pays for the nail changes the whole thing. And so when that happens, I think a lot of people are like, wow, that's a lot. So now I have to build a building, I have to do job training, I have to do this, I have to engage the community. That's why I come to people like myself who has done it on the government end and the private end, because to me, it's just doing business. You're still going to get your building, on time. You're still going to get it on budget, but you're also going to have a social impact and economic impact in the place where you are building. Because that is your right. I mean, that is your responsibility. If I'm putting a building there and I'm going to make a whole bunch of money off of either rents or whatever I'm going to do, just as I don't want to say conscious developer, but just as somebody who sees the community and where they're building, they should want to invest in the people that are there.
So is that why they have the 80-20 rule for every new building that's built now?
I think so.
Like 20% of the tenants must be of middle to low income.
Well,
because many of these new developments, if you're from New York City and if you're from it's not made for certain people in New York City.
Yes.
And it's mainly made for people that are coming in. They're not made for a lot of people that live within the community.
Yes.
Especially where they're building these buildings. Because as you walk around, you see a house here one day, you see a building there the next day. Yes. You see a small building of 3-family building, a 3-family house, and next year it's a 10-story building.
Yes. And it's a lot to do with the zoning and regulations and
But are they illegal? I always wondered, is that illegal?
Well, it depends on like the zoning, right? So if the zoning says you can build up, you can build up. I mean, that's just it. But I think that we're having a housing stock issue. So yes, there needs to be, I don't want to say a mandate, right? Because then there needs to be some way to help the low to moderate income people, right? So in New York, you can, if you are destitute, if you are like below the poverty level, there's some sort of housing that you can apply for and get to. But I think when it comes to the middle income, like if you're the person making $40,000 to $70,000 a year, you know what I mean, you shouldn't need a roommate to live. There should be a housing stock for you. So it's either you make a bunch of money you can live, or if you make no money.
But according to New York City, the way we're specifically talking about New York City right now because we are in New York City. The way rent right now in New York City, your rent is literally one whole paycheck.
Absolutely.
Or 2 whole paychecks.
Absolutely.
And this is why you have situations where it's like 3-4 people living in one apartment.
Well, they try to do the rates by something called the AMI, so area median income, right? So what they did, instead of looking at our boroughs, they included like Westchester, they included other places, and they said, okay, well that should be the median income for people to be like low income. And sometimes it's like, all right, you're still considered like low income if you make $80,000 and you have like 2 kids. You're still considered low income. So it doesn't make sense.
Causes to it.
Yeah, to include like those outer areas within the 5 boroughs. So I know there's a lot of people and a lot of people who are senators and things like that in Congress, men and women, are trying to fix that because it doesn't work for us. And there's some other things going on with rent regulations and 421A, keeping crooked landlords and things like that.
You are very knowledgeable about this. What made you want to get into it?
It really is an interesting story. And I can't even say it's one thing. Is that, all right, so when you know how it feels to, I guess, feel like left behind or forgotten or maybe not considered, what would be, I guess, normal. I came out when I was 14. That was like way back in the 90s, right? So, yeah. I know what it feels like to kind of feel, I don't want to say oppression, right? Because I had a good family, so I was not oppressed, but I know how it feels. I just know how it feels. And when I see other people kind of like getting, not getting a chance to build their lives, when I see communities not being able to thrive within their own culture and, grow their own businesses, to me, that's just like, it just doesn't feel right. And I know that there's a way, because I know that there are compliance laws. There are things that can do this, and they're on the books. Now, whether people enforce them, that's a whole nother level. But I know those things can really enrich and better communities. So it comes from the inside, because I don't want to see communities forgotten. I don't want to see people displaced. I want to see people be able to raise, if you lived on that block and your grandma lived on that block and your aunties live on that block, be able to have that home and have that place to come back to and say, this is our family home. This is what we we need, we want. And that just builds a better community. When you have an investment in it, then you'll see business coming up, you'll see other things, coming up. You don't have to leave, I got out of the ghetto. No, just rebuild it. Because as soon as you leave, somebody else is going to come back in and build it, and you'll go back and go, I never realized this place looked like that before. Right. You didn't use the tools to rebuild it. They waited till you left, got the property dirt cheap, rebuilt it. Now there's a Starbucks at every corner. You can't afford to live there.
Because it is your neighborhood at the end of the day.
Absolutely. We all have our especially in New York, although we are blending, we all have our different communities, you know what I mean? You have your different places where you can really see your culture and everything, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
When did you grow up in New York?
I did not actually. I was born in Philadelphia, then we moved to New York. So then so Philly, you know, I was there too, and I saw how they're trying to also come up and do their community development.
Do you have like, how old were you when you moved to New York?
I was a baby. Yeah, I was like
so
I think 8. Yeah,
you grew up in New York.
Yeah,
because like you had your prime in New York.
Yeah,
your prime years.
And you know, and then we were upstate for a little bit, and you know, doing some things up there. And I had wonderful memories of upstate. And there's a place called like Clifton Park, and it was really interesting. And I made some wonderful relationships up there. But you know, ever since I've been here, my
New York City.
Yes, my focus has been community development.
How long have you been in New York City?
I think I got back here. So I went back to Philly for 3.5 years to work for a company called Penrose, doing community development there. Mm-hmm. And I think I landed back here when I was, 25, 26?
Okay.
And I'm going to be 40 next month, so.
Well, you don't look 40. You look good. So, hey.
So, yeah, so I'm just, you know, it's just home now. And, I mean, it's always been home, and it's been, you know, and so I don't plan on going anywhere. I plan on actually buying, you know, a house here. And even though I may travel, because what we do, we see it as something that we can take around the world. So we just became, last year we became a certified contractor with the United Nations. So once these models once we start seeing it, we can replicate it. We can go ahead and we can just do it anywhere. So you see a distressed community, you know, put the Monroe Group stamp on it.
That's amazing.
'Cause that's what we're gonna do.
That is amazing. So I'm just curious because you did say you came out at 14.
Yes.
And most people know the construction business is like a macho.
Yes.
The best way to describe it would be the word macho.
Yeah.
How have it been navigating the construction industry as a person that is within the LGBT community? Because you are, and you're not afraid to let anybody know.
Well, that had to be it. You know, you had to have a strong sense of self, right? Because when I first, I remember my first like construction site. I was what did I was called? I was like, they were like, you know, saying little things like "Pretty Ricky" and like, you know, stuff like that. Things that weren't really. And I was actually wearing.
Oh, that's so corny.
But I was
That's so corny.
I was coming from the manager's office, right? So they were just like not even really respecting me like at all. So
Seriously, calm down.
I remember going back to my supervisor, and I was like, these MFs are like, I was really like heated. He was like, all right, just calm down. And he's like, all right, go back there and be the person that I hired. He's like, so I saw you, I know you can handle it. So go back there and be the person, like, don't be scared of them. He's like, you were their boss, not the other way around. And, you know, the beginning of the week started, you know, with some nicknames, but by the end of the week, it was Mr. Monroe, and it was never anything else. And I didn't have to go out of my way to be, you know, extra mean, or, you know, I didn't have to fire anyone to make a statement. I actually had to find that within myself, like, this is how it needs to go. I know what I'm doing. And from that point on, it's just been that. It has to be, you have to be direct, and you have to be strong. And even if some people now, because right now, right, I'm no longer on construction sites, I'm in the boardroom. And there's usually a lot of men around the table, and a lot of men that don't look like me around the table, and they come from the construction world. So, you know, still have that macho bravado in the boardroom, and you still have to show them who you are, and that you're here to do business. You know, this is not about your sexuality. It's about what I'm bringing to the table. And I think within my industry, you know, people know me. I get the respect I think I deserve. And if I don't, I will make sure I get it.
So what is your process? Like, for somebody who is in the LGBT community, but they want to enter the construction industry, but they're kind of skeptical. They don't want the backlash of somebody coming for them for who they are. They don't want that mental abuse, but it's stopping them from pushing themselves to get into it. So what is your process that made you say, I'm here, so you're going to respect me?
There has always been, and maybe because I was a young little spitfire, but there's always been like this drive. And my mother always said you have to teach people how to treat you, right? And I'm sure that's something you see a lot within the African American community, right? We say you have to teach people how to treat you, but that shit is real. Like, you have to teach people how to treat you, and you have to be willing to speak up. You can't allow people to hurt you so bad that you don't get up again, right?
Yeah, because you're hurting yourself.
Yeah, right. Because the thing is, what I find funny is like they'll move on. They'll forget they said it to you, and they'll be living their best life somewhere else. But you're still holding on to that and not allowing you to move forward. So it is all about, for me, even to this day, it's all about like focusing inward. And whenever I focus inward, everything else just works well. So but definitely. Don't be scared, have confidence. If you think you can do it, do it. I mean, I've had people tell me when I was like, oh, construction, I love construction, even when I was younger. Like, don't you want to be design? You want to be a dancer? You want to do makeup? You want to do hair? I'm like, hell no, I don't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. I just think, not that there's anything wrong with that, right? And I think it's amazing being in the artistic world. But for me, it wasn't it. I even right now, when I like go and I see buildings being built, I'm like, that's just amazing. Like, 'cause there's so much that happens in a building. There's so much, like, anniversaries and birthdays and wedding proposals. When you build a structure, there's so much story that goes into it. It's just wonderful.
I never thought about it like
People
that.
live their lives in the buildings that you put up.
Yeah.
Have babies, bring their first baby home, right?
Yeah. You're like a building builds a story.
Absolutely.
You're starting someone's new story to something.
Absolutely.
That is such an interesting way to think about actual building. Like the building we're in right now, how many stories has it created?
Absolutely. Entrepreneurs, we're in this space, and there's entrepreneurs here. People start their first business, they're here. Events, and they come in, and in this space, we collaborate a lot. So like I'm here all the time, and now I started actually donating some of my time to other entrepreneurs that come in, and they sit down, and I'll give like consulting hours. Like, all right, so what we gonna do? How we gonna do it? And
he tells you the raw truth. I could definitely say that because I met Desmond. I had a meeting with Joanne.
Yes.
And randomly, you were having a meeting with someone else.
Yes.
A partner that he met here, starting a new business opportunity with.
Absolutely.
And I literally had to do like a mock pitch to you and your partner and Joanne. And Desmond gave me the raw truth. He made me go home and think about my life. But I appreciate that because you don't get that very often. Many people, they're like, oh, that sounds really good. But you just told me like, I would not hire you. I would not hire you. And because of that, it just made me think about what I have to do.
Yes. But I wasn't me. I did back it up with
No, you did back
content.
it up with good reason.
Yeah.
Good reason.
Backed it up and I gave you
Because you're allowing me to interview you, so obviously it was okay, I'm not that bad.
I gave you things. I sent you some emails to get you on your way because you just don't want to just like crush somebody's dreams and walk away. If you're going to do it, you have to make sure that you follow up with constructive ways that they can then better. You just don't say, I don't like when people do that. I don't like that. Well, why? At least tell me what's next. How can I improve? So that's why when we sat down and when you did your pitch, I immediately, we gave feedback, but then I was like, let me go send some emails because I don't want you going home being like,
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm a tough girl.
Okay.
But I could definitely say I appreciated the honest feedback. Because like I said, you don't get that very often. Some people may just give you no. You weren't good. Some people make you like, you did okay.
Yeah.
You did okay. But you just told me no and you told me why. And I appreciate that. I really did.
That's how we build stronger business, right? Because I need you to be successful because, we need to, and I know that you probably have a diverse audience and that's great, but we need to see more of us. Kids need to see more people that look like them in business roles, right? It's nice to have your athlete or your rapper or whatever, but sometimes that leads to an unrealistic view of success and it leads to a lot of materialism. So when they come in, they need to see actually people within their community being entrepreneurs, doing their own thing. So that way you don't necessarily have to be, the next LeBron James or the next, whoever rapper you're looking at. You may want to be, the next one of us and start your own production company or start your own, community business. That's how we grow. And I think that's what I'm I'm trying to foster, and I think I'm doing a good job.
It's true, and that's how you develop the community as well.
Yes.
Because when you do stuff like that, you give opportunities for the next person that looks like you, the same opportunity that somebody else that may not look like them would give them.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's
And
true.
we have to. And it's okay, right? Because other communities have been doing it forever. So we shouldn't feel bad when we say, okay, we want to make opportunities for, Black and brown people in the community, because it's okay. It's okay to do that. And especially in New York City. I mean, it makes no sense that we don't have, there's so many Black people here. I think outside of the continent of Africa, we all here. So
It feels like that sometimes.
Really is, right?
It does.
So
Some places you go, we're a little scared.
Yeah.
So when you see somebody, you like,
no,
I
I'm
see
sure if
you.
you look it up, outside the continent of Africa, in the United States, there's New York City as the most Black people, most Black and brown. I'm
Okay.
telling you, where else are we at? You can say Atlanta, but that still ain't that big. We're talking about here. So we're really trying to make sure that, we uplift communities, right? Because you see the other side so often, you don't necessarily see the side.
especially within development as well, because
Absolutely.
when you think about development, to be honest, you don't think of a person being the head person behind the scenes doing this,
Yeah.
making this happen. And to see a person of color doing it and giving an opportunity to other people of color,
Absolutely.
it's amazing.
Yeah,
It's
speaking
amazing.
at May 23rd, I'm speaking at Career Day at school. I got asked, for some principals to come out and speak at Career Day.
Nice.
So I'm be out there and, telling kids like, this is how we move forward, and giving them, hopefully some knowledge and some resources, getting them, hungry about it. I mean, if you really want to talk about balling and making money, disaster recovery alone in 2007 was over 300 billion. 2018 was over 100 billion. I mean,
Woo.
you really want to talk about balling.
So I think I'm in the wrong industry right now.
I made that money. I'm saying that's how much it costs. So there are people really growing wonderful companies
Right.
through these phases, and the city and what their spending is. I mean, it's just billions of dollars. That is where the balling is. You may become a celebrity, but if you put your work in and you go this route, you will. You will become stable, and you will have a future that you can pass down to your generation. So
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What projects are you currently working
I don't
on?
even pass it this time. All right, so right now we are still doing some work with the standard recovery efforts. We're working in Long Island, doing some architecture and development. We're working alongside an architect. I am working with a developer, and we're doing 2 affordable housing projects.
Oh, wow, nice.
One is 2 affordable housing. Well, one affordable housing project in Brooklyn, and one project that will require MWBE compliance on it. So that's really good. So money going into the community, housing for the community.
Beautiful.
And then I teamed up with this.
Are they in the works, or it's
Yes,
like in
yes.
the starting phases of the development right
We're
now?
starting phases of development.
Okay.
And then I teamed up, and I've been actually teamed up with IBM in a really kind
Wow.
of cool way. One of the people from IBM, reached out, and they've really been helping me with developing more technology.
Shark Tank, move over, okay? You about to get somebody join the panel. Next person join the panel.
Well, we realized.
Whoa!
The thing.
Whoa! That's big.
Oh, thank you.
That is huge.
Thank you. That's sometimes you have to diversify, right? And you have
Wow.
to, but it's all in flow with what we do, right? So I'm not using I'm taking what's in here and I'm just putting it in software.
Right.
And we realized that a lot of small to medium-sized businesses, when it comes down to finding these government contracts and everything, they don't really know how to. And there's thousands of websites that you can go and pull the RFPs, but once you pull an RFP, if you never looked at it before, you just see tons of paperwork and documents and legal language, and you're just I have no idea.
Right.
So I started doing the business development software for just in-house and my partners, and then somebody else and IBM, they're like, oh, that's a really good thing. I was like, oh yeah, that's what we can do. And other companies, their procurements, their business development procurement software, it's so expensive. And I'm just like, well, what if we can do it for small businesses and we can license it and we can have it. So we just started just working on it, and it just popped up. And then working with Lynn Reyes, she's been really, really, really good, and she's been our consultant. She's really into tech, and she's just helped me see what I do and move it into a technical aspect to make software from it, because I'm just oh, this is construction, this is what we do, this is compliance and government contracts and paperwork. How is this going to be a software? And she was like, It's like, you're missing me. So we just like mapped it out. We spent actually like 4 weeks. Just like, she's like, everything you do, I want to put it on a board. And so we just put it on the board and we start going through it. And at the end of the day, I just like looked and she was like, this is software. This is a component of software. This is this. And I was like, got it.
I am beyond impressed right now. That is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Black man gold.
Well, hopefully, and hopefully those, this software actually will, especially.
I don't mean to say it like that, but
No.
it's just like, this is what we're talking about. We need to see people like us, that looks like us, doing things like this. And this is what I want to bring to you, stories like this, of people like Desmonde Monroe, who's making moves like this, real moves that maybe one day he may be somebody that you want to look up to. He may be somebody that can teach you and wants to teach you as well. Does not just want to sit there and say, I'm making money. You actually want to teach the community how to make money too. So. And
then maybe a partnership deal. You never know who's watching this. You may be a new carrier, you may be a contractor. You may then say, hey, I've been trying to get into this space. And, come down to our procurement events. You'll see me in person and you'll have other people here that can help you get through that and get
May 9th,
certified. May 23rd.
23rd.
May 23rd from 6 to 9.
You just heard it? Exactly.
But you will definitely see it on, if you go to the Brooklyn Commons website, they'll definitely have it there. And even on our website, I'll post it, the Monroe Group LLC.com, and on our Facebook page and Twitter and stuff like that. You'll definitely see the notice, so you can come out and get the information you need and get at it.
You hear that? So let us know, because it seems like you have a lot going on.
It really is.
A lot going on. And he just makes it sound like, oh, it's nothing. It's just kind of like, I just like drinking a cup of water. It's nothing. But literally, like, now, 2019 is an impactful year for you. How long have you been like your full-blown entrepreneurship? You stepped away from government.
So I started a company on paper in 2016, right? But I'm still working. I still had to work and stuff like that. And in the end of 2017, at the end, maybe like September of 2017, it was all on me, and I was out just doing my own hustle.
So did you leave with clients from the government agencies that you were working with, or you had to start fresh?
I actually was, at that time, I had already left the government. I was working for a private company, a private construction management firm. I was doing really well there. And then but then thankfully, what happened was that clients, once they found out, it was like we did like an outreach, and we just like sent out like all the emails I've ever had, and I just like sent out an outreach, and people were like, oh, so he's on his own now, and they they came to the door, and still, it's a process. So it wasn't like that day I was like, oh, millionaire, just making it rain. But it was like, okay, so people want to buy what you're selling. People believe in your services, and they know that the work you do, right? Because I used to do that work for other organizations and make them money, just didn't do it for myself. So then, now it's time for me to do it on my own. And there's been ups and downs in your own entrepreneurship story, but the thing is, you gotta keep it moving. And I think I went to a lot of mentors when it was hard times. I was like, oh my God, I was like, how am I gonna do this? They're like, when you have $2 in your pocket, keep moving. Like, do not stop, especially when you have a product that has been tested and but you just have to stick in it and you have to work it. You gotta keep moving, because so many times you want to give up. You gotta get used to eating ramen. Eat it. It's good. Just put some other seasonings on it. Put some other things to it, and make sure you have a network of people who are going to support that. But yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world, and I don't think I can go back, because it's just it now. It's just it.
So if anybody wants to connect with you, learn about your company, be your next business partner, investor, or need a job, and they want to know more about OSHA, want to know more about exactly what can I do to help get my company in the MWB program and to work with companies like you?
Yes. Well, how
can they connect with you?
They can go to the website, the Monroe Group LLC.com, they can contact me through, it's called updates at the Monroe Group LLC.com. That's our like general mailbox, and I do check it, or somebody will check it and send it to me. And just feel free to like reach out. If it is something that you're passionate about, I will definitely point you in the right direction. I think something that our company wants to do, and my company wants to do once we get to that fiscal level, is we want to start a not-for-profit that's just angel investors. So I want to be able to take, percentage of the company's funds and other people, who want to invest in small businesses, and I want to hire people who know not only how to get through the certification process, but also help people build, their brands and understand their value proposition and their market, so that way they can become entrepreneurs. And I definitely want to put those in underserved, underdeveloped areas. And I think that's going to be it. But one step at a time. But if they get in touch, they'll definitely get an answer. But definitely come down to the event, the procurement event. That way I can talk to a few people at once. And it's a series. We're doing it throughout the year. We're starting with the MWBE how-to, and then we're doing construction matching, and then we're going into film and media. We're having a whole event for them. We're having an event for, tech. So if you are interested in getting into the tech industry and all that kind of stuff, we'll have people here that are keynote speakers that will talk to you, and we'll have actually companies here that are hiring for those services, just in case you already have your company. So I think I'm always around, especially within the Bushwick area, to contact. And come down to, Community Board 4 events. I am Vice Chair of Economic Development for Community Board 4, which is Bushwick, and we're on the Housing and Land Use. So if you look at the Community Board events, Bushwick CD4, when you see our public engagement meetings, feel free to come down, because that's a really good time to speak to me as well, and other really, really smart people from the community that are lending their services and lending their knowledge to building a better tomorrow. I don't want to say that. I want to make it sound like building a better tomorrow. Yeah.
And whatever you did not catch what Desmond said will be below. Definitely look below in the description box. You'll definitely find that there. So we're going to sign off.
All right.
It was great speaking to you.
Great speaking to you.
I felt like I just got a crash course on construction and how to work with the city, because, wow, it just gave me a head full of things right now.
I hope it helps not only you, but everyone watching you.
Yeah, I definitely, what Desmond said, you need to, if you're looking to get into it, you don't know what to do, this is the guy. Get in touch, reach out. Definitely don't be afraid to reach out. Again, my name is Andrea of MAKADREZ.com. I just sat with Desmond Monroe. Like I said before, he has so many titles. I'm going to forget something, but you'll find it below. But community development, outreach, and
disaster recovery.
Now you see why. I wouldn't remember that. Remember, every Tuesday, new episodes, and I will see you next Tuesday. Bye.